Hi everybody, this is Chris, and in this video I want to talk about how to address people properly and politely in Mandarin Chinese, because this is something that a lot of textbooks don't really talk about. They just teach you that 你好 is hello and 您好 is a polite way of saying hello. But if you listen to Chinese people, often they will address people in a certain way to express politeness and respect for other people. So whether you're traveling to China or you're doing business in China, it's really important to know how to address people in the correct way so you can avoid any embarrassing mistakes and you can make sure that you're treating people in a polite and respectful way. So the first thing you need to know is what part of the person's name is their family name or their surname, and which part is the given name. So in Chinese names, the surname or the family name always comes first in the Chinese way of writing it. However, some people will, when they go to foreign countries, they'll reverse the order of their names. So it's like English where the surname goes at the end. So you normally need to figure out which of the names is the family name. And sometimes people will write this in an email or on a business card in capitals, which will make it easier for you. But if you're really not sure which of the person's names is the family name, then you can ask them what their surname is by saying 您贵姓, 您贵姓, which means what is your surname or what is your honorable surname. So if you know the person's family name, then the next thing you need to think about is the age of the person compared to you and their level of seniority compared to you, and also the position that they might be in. So all of these things will affect how you address them. So let's talk about in a formal business situation how you would address people. And in this example, I'm using somebody with the surname Zhang. Zhang. So in this situation, their surname is pronounced in the first tone. But if you don't actually know the tone of the family name, then that's not the most crucial thing here. So in a formal situation, if you're addressing a stranger, then it's generally safe to refer to them as Mr. or Mrs. So Mr. Zhang would be 张先生, 张先生 for Mr. Zhang, and 张女士, 张女士 for Mrs. or Miss Zhang. And you'll notice that the word for a woman in the polite form of address doesn't actually concern whether this person is married or not. 女士 can be used for a married person or a non-married person. So it's completely safe to use in any situation. And then you can also add a greeting to the end of this form of address. So you could say 张先生,您好. Hello, Mr. Zhang. And this is the formal way to say hello. 您好 is the formal way, and 你好 is the informal way to say hello, which you might know already. So 张先生, Mr. Zhang, and 张女士, Mrs. or Miss Zhang. So let's have a look at some other examples now. One good way to find out the correct way to address somebody and their correct title is to look at their business card. So normally when you meet somebody in a formal situation for the first time, you can exchange business cards. And in China, when you do that, you should always accept the business card with both hands. And then if you look on the business card on the Chinese part, normally it will give you their title. But if you don't find that, or you don't know how to read Chinese characters, then you can always ask how to address somebody. You can say 您怎么称呼?您怎么称呼?您怎么称呼? Which means, how should I address you? And then the person will generally reply, and then you can just act according to their reply. So this is a very safe way to play it. So let's have a look at some examples of different ways that you might address different people. And again, I'm using the surname Zhang for these examples. So 张总, for example, would be President Zhang or Chairman Zhang, and this would be a CEO or a director of a company, or somebody in a top management position in the company. So if you know that somebody is the CEO, you can call them the family name plus 总. Another one could be 张主任, 张主任. And this 主任 can mean a director of a particular department or perhaps an organization. Again, this would be something that you would pick up from the business card or from asking them. 张主任, Director Zhang. And these English translations are only rough translations. It might vary according to the situation. If somebody is a manager, you might call them 张经理, 张经理. And if somebody is a government minister or perhaps a director of a department, for example, say the Human Resources Department, you might call them 部长. For example, 张部长. 张部长 would be Minister Zhang or maybe Director Zhang, depending on their position. You would translate it in a different way in English. So this might be getting a little bit confusing, but again, if you don't know these, then you can always call them Mr. or you can just go according to what you see on the business card. So let's talk about some of the ways to address people in an academic situation. So normally in China, people will call their teachers by their family name and teacher. So for example, somebody with the surname Zhang would be 张老师, 张老师, which means teacher Zhang, which is different from in English. You don't normally say teacher Chris or teacher Parker, but in Chinese you would normally use this. Also, if somebody is a professor, you could use 教授, which means professor, 张教授, which means Professor Zhang. And notice that in all of these examples, the title goes at the end after the family name in Chinese, whereas in English it goes before the family name. If somebody is a doctor in an academic situation, you can call them 博士. 张博士 would be Dr. Zhang. 张博士. And if you're wondering how to talk to a doctor in a medical situation, then that would normally be 张大夫 or 张医生. 张大夫 or 张医生 would be Dr. Zhang in a hospital or a dentist. So far I've been talking about how to address people in formal or polite business situations, but also you need to know how to address strangers and people in less formal situations, because there are also specific ways to address people in Chinese in this kind of situation. So if you want to address somebody in an informal situation and there's somebody that you don't know at all, then it depends on their age compared to you. So if you're referring to an older man, for example, I'm younger and I'm referring to somebody who's middle-aged, who's a man, I would normally say 叔叔, 叔叔. So if I want to say hello, I could say 叔叔你好, 叔叔你好. That would be to an older man. An older woman would be 阿姨, 阿姨. So anybody who's around middle age, these two would be appropriate. If you're talking to somebody who's much older, an elderly man or woman, you can use 爷爷, 爷爷 for a man, or 奶奶 for a woman. So if I'm talking to an older lady that I want to stop on the street, I can say 奶奶你好. And that would be a very polite way to address an elderly person. And also for younger people, if you're addressing somebody who's also young but a bit older than you, you can use 哥哥 for a boy who's older than you, or 姐姐 for a girl who's older than you. So that might be quite a lot to remember. But if you're in China or you're visiting China or another Chinese-speaking area, then you will notice that people will use these all the time, and you'll pick them up and start to recognize them over time. So don't worry about remembering all of these. And there's another one which you use for craftspeople or artisans or also taxi drivers. And this is 师傅. So to use the example of somebody with the surname Zhang again, this would be 张师傅. So the rough way to translate this would be Master Zhang. And if you don't know their surname, you can just say 师傅. So this is a way to address a craftsperson or a taxi driver, or somebody who is, for example, a plumber or a builder or anything like that. And it's also used in Kung Fu when you're addressing your Kung Fu master. So you might have heard that 师傅 in kung fu movies as well. However, if you're talking to somebody who's a similar age to you and you're on good terms or you're just friends with them, then you don't have to use any of these polite or formal ways to address people. You can just use their given name directly. For example, if somebody is called Wang Shaohua, you can just refer to them as Shaohua if you're a close friend. And if somebody introduces themselves to you using their English name, even if they're somebody who's quite senior in a company, they just say, my name is Jimmy, or my name is John, or something like that, then normally you can just use this English name and you just bypass all of these Chinese formalities. So in that kind of situation, you're lucky and you don't have to think about any of this stuff at all. And then you can just say, you can just refer to them by their English name. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful to you in learning how to address people properly in Chinese, and you'll learn these slowly as you go along if you're visiting or doing business in China. If you want to get more top tips about learning Chinese, then I've put together a guide of the 10 biggest mistakes beginners in Chinese make and how you can avoid them. All you have to do to get that is to click on the picture of the guide on the screen and sign up with your email address, confirm that, and I'll send that out to you. And also, if you want to get more information about learning Chinese, just click on the logo from my website at the bottom to visit my site, and there's loads more information and lessons and tips there. So thanks for watching this video. Hope it's helpful to you, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye, everybody.